Library TV. I am your host, Gary Vaynerchuk. And this, my friends, is the Thunder Show, aka the internet's most passionate wine program. And this is an episode that I've been waiting for a very, very long time. Ever since I wrote the book, I always promised myself I would do a show of the top 2 wines from the book. Normally we don't like to mix in different things, but I think this is a very special occasion. We are at Chateau d'Ozy Vidrines, and in this beautiful room, I mean, just this spit bucket's probably worth more than the entire wine library. So, you know, a very special place. The table's a little shaky, a lot of elegance, class, and so we bring the Thunder Show to this environment, and we talk about 2 wines that I think were exceptional. So much so that I was willing to put my name behind it on my first book. And the 2 wines both happen to be from the Bordeaux region, Sauternes and one from Saint-Estèphe. And we're going to taste these wines on the Thunder Show for you right now. This is really exciting, and let's just really get right into it. Let's start with the wine that claimed the number 2 spot in the book, the Chateau d'Estranol, which the 2005 vintage now is rolling in the $250 range, which is awfully scary to me because I remember when this wine was $25, dropped to 0. If I remember it, imagine the people that have been in the business a long time, what they think about the prices. But as you know, I do believe that 2005 has fundamentally changed the price structure of Bordeaux. As I've talked about at nausea, let me go with that one instead, that Bordeaux is the clear one global brand, and Costa Estranol has picked up a lot of steam over the last couple of years. It'll be interesting to see how it handles its new price points over the next half a decade, and that'll be something I'll be watching on one eye. But, you know, what I think is very interesting is that the 2005 vintage clearly was an amazing vintage, not only for top estates, top chateaus, the first and second growths and that nature, but a wide range of different Bordeaux were able to make sensational efforts in the 05 vintage. The cost really demonstrated enormous class and elegance at a young age, but with the clear potential and backbone. Almost like when you look at a puppy, right? You look at a puppy and it's a big dog, and a great man once told me, look at the paws to see how big it's going to be. You know, that's kind of how I look at Bordeaux. You look at the structure, the backbone, the tannins to figure out where is this wine going. And not any of us, not Robert Parker, not James Suckling, not Jancis Robinson. Nobody's going to tell you exactly. Get over the fact when people say 25 to 30 years that you save it for that window. That's hogwash, that's guesstimation, and that has no value. So when you do find a wine that you love and it's drinking great and you've been sitting on a little wine, I highly recommend you going and trying that wine. Now, let's get into the Vino itself. A 78% Cabernet, 19% Merlot, 3% Cabernet Franc blend, 05. Let's give it a sniffy sniff, because that's what we do on the Thunder Show. 13.5 alcohol. Pay attention to that number. You do not need to go to 14.5 or 15.5 or 16.2 to make world-class wine. It's a big overrated situation where people think that the alcohol level, you know, gives an indication of the quality or the legs on the glass. Smell it and taste it, and that's how you know if it brings straight thunder to your world. I'm going to give it one more sniffy sniff because I got a little bit excited there. Again, what happens in classic Bordeaux is it goes through changes. You know, you hear things like dummy phases, ups and downs. That's what I love about the romance of classic wines that can last for 40 years. Finding those nooks and crannies and valleys, trying to not get caught. Ian and I had an 89 Aubryon the other night, a 100-point Parker wine. We, I think, caught a dip. You know, could come back, or it could be just a bottle. Only great bottles, not great vintages, as a lot of people say. Anyway, let's get into the world. And the reason I brought that up is a highly limited nose in comparison to what I remember. I do get some black cherry and a little bit of leather on the nose right now. A little Asian spice comes through as well, which is quite nice. Let's give it a whirl. You know, it's even more exciting for me to taste it in this reference point, whereas over the last, 96 hours, I have tasted hundreds of Bordeaux wine. And it just is so much easier when you're tasting at this intensive a level to really see what class stands out, right? I mean, you go watch a pickup basketball game, and one of the guys is really good. You're like, oh, that guy's great. Go put him on an NBA court and see what happens. Makes sense? That's how I kind of feel right now. This wine is an NBA player, and a very good one. Maybe even, let's say, Patrick Ewing. a great Hall of Fame player that doesn't get enough respect. I figured I'd sneak that in there. Great complexity, bright cherries are coming throughout the wine. The polish is intense. I still taste the lingering finish on this classic Bordeaux right now. The back-end tannins completely convinced me that this wine has the potential to age for 50 years. I said 5-0, not 1-5, my friends. And, maybe even beyond that. There's a really amazing freshness to this wine, which is so classic and clear with the 05 vintage. As this wine continues to develop, I'm going to be really fascinated to see what happens, especially within the mid-palate of this wine, when the second-tier flavors come in, some of the herbaceous and spices that sometimes materialize as a wine gets older. Again, dark fruit components dominate the day here. We're talking about black cherries, black fruit, all in all. The finish is staggering. As I'm still yapping, Ian, what do you think? 2 minutes now. Yapping to you, I still taste the wine's finish, which is extremely impressive. Let me give it one more whirl. This is textbook classic. To me, this is a very pricey wine, and the majority of you will not go out and buy a $250 bottle of wine. As a matter of fact, I'm not even sure I can recommend that in good faith, right? There's so many wines out there for 25 to 50 bucks they can buy almost a case of. However, if you're going out for a nice dinner and the company's paying for it, a little expense account action, or if you're looking to put away wine and collect it, I've got to be very honest with you. There's no doubt in my mind, as I watch the Bordeaux market, now we're talking business, evolve, that with the repricing of Bordeaux, and I do think there will be a time where there'll be a little bit of a dip, possibly, again, remember we talk about this at length, India, Russia, China, Sweden, Belgium, Germany, they're not running out for Harlan and Bryan family, my friends. They're buying Bordeaux. So with global demand, and these guys aren't going out and buying vineyards, they've got their lot, supply and demand, it's basic economics. There's no doubt in my mind that this wine will, in a very short period of time, probably when I'm in my 40s, I'm in my 30s now, be $1,000 retail a bottle of wine. I believe it. I believe that that is where the Bordeaux market is going, as the demand of wine explodes and the quantities cannot grow. So, as weird as that may sound, it's hard for me to say, I do believe at $250 it was value, and that's what I talk about in the book, finding wines that brought thunder, meaning quality-price ratio. And I think, and I talk about it before, there's a lot of great value in Bordeaux, and even at the high end, might sound weird, but if you're rolling like P. Diddy, if you got cash coming out of your pockets like Ian does, then you can go out and buy wines like this. So, classic wine. To me, this rolls in as a 98 plus point wine. I think it is absolutely phenomenal, classic in every sense of the word. Much more brightness and complexities than even the 2000, in my opinion, at this point in the game. A year and a half in, that's where I was tasting a lot of 2000s, and I was really trying to remember where I had the cost and even look back at my notes. It's evolving even better. It's still got the youthfulness. It's kind of like that perfect 15-year-old, right? Still a little bit of a child, but becoming a man. And that's where I kind of see this wine. Great effort. Let's move on. And this is nice, being in the hometown. It's a home court thing. The wine that took the gold, the champion of the world, the #1 wine. And this was a lot of fun for me when I was really breaking down. And if you don't think I gave a lot of thought to go here, I did. However, I think it's very fascinating to me. I kind of like to think of myself as a throwback, even though I use a lot of new technologies and I'm a new wave guy, right? Sauternes, Dozy. These are, you start doing homework and find out that Dozy was more expensive than the Yquem. If you start, the Yquem wines, if you start going back in history, you start getting a little fascinated. I get fascinated when I see things like Chinon being priced in the 40s in catalogs for more than Bordeaux. So the world changes, right? Demands change, palates change. And I believe, hands down, let's start with it. This is a $30 to $50 wine, depending on when you bought it. Hands down, that Sauternes, specifically Sauternes, and let me throw Tokaj from Hungary in there, are some of the most underpriced products in the world. Now, the Yquem's kind of made a run for it to try to change the game, and we'll have to see how that develops. But there is no doubt in my mind, as America specifically becomes a more mature wine drinking culture, we've gotten to a place where we are really in a place where we're drinking wine on our table every day. Now comes the place where I believe we will be drinking 3 wines, like our counterparts around the world, with every dinner. Your aperitif white, your red with dinner, and a dessert wine, a dessert wine after dinner is going to change the demand for dessert wines. Way too many people have not realized the complexities the complexities and efforts that dessert wines bring to the table. I think way too many people look at it as a sweet tooth move at the end, something you buy for your wife, and I think people are not realizing how complex these wines were. So, when I tasted Dozy, I was completely blown away by its effort. QPR, the thunder factor, was through the roof because so many Sauternes I've tasted in the past at 100 bones did not live up to this character. So let's see what's going on now. It'd be really funny after all that build-up, Ian, if this wine sucked. It could. I don't know. Things evolve. Let's give it a snippy sniff because that's what we do. You know, it's a little bit cold. It's a little cold, which, you know what I think about cold stuff, but, most people go cold, and I understand. I love tasting it warm because I really get in there, but cold is fine as well. I mean, it's just slightly chilled, which is nice, and probably the way 99% of you are going to drink it anyway, so I might as well appease in this situation. You cannot begin to describe the enormous bouquet this wine brings to the table right off the bat. I get enormously interesting flavors right off the bat. As a matter of fact, one of the quick things that hits me that I don't remember ever smelling before and that I don't find often in Sauternes, believe it or not, is a little bit of a lychee fruit component right on the nose. I get dried apricots that I'm clearly always looking for. A little bit of a caramel cantaloupe kind of thing, believe it or not. But the dried apricots are ruling the day. There's apricots for days. Apricot City, my friends. A little bit of orange peel coming through as well, and banana peel. A lot of peels. Looks like somebody ate around here. A lot of peels. A little orange peel, a little banana peel. The apricots are rubbing and exactly onto your nose. It's really intense. Let's give it a whirl. There's not a lot of wines that we don't spit on Wine Library TV. And I'm going to tell you ultimately why I love this wine. And there are other major critics out there that are not as high on this specific vintage as on Dozy as I am. However, it seems like there's a lot of momentum right now. The 07 is going gaga around the world. But on this 05, what I think this effort does that completely hits my palate, and I'm a balance guy, I find too many people go too far. And the balance on this Sauternes is exceptional. Some of the best balance I've ever seen. I don't need the viscosity to be through the roof. I don't need to be stuck to my mouth after drinking Sauternes. This has the elegance and the polish. I'm completely impressed. Once again, I'm going to taste it again, really wrap my head around it. I do want to get to some statistics. 80% Semillon, the backbone of this wine. 17% Sauvignon Blanc, and 3% Muscatel. And so let's get into it one more time. The length on this wine is incredible, first and foremost. Second of all, again, with the apricots and a little bit of peachiness now I'm picking up on the back end of the palate is quite nice. I also really adore this banana peel thing going on that this wine brings to the table. It's gorgeous. It's evolving. It's a little bit more silky than I remember the effort that even made the book. The balance is clear. And here's what I love, and I think a lot of you are going to agree with me. I think people that love Sauternes for its flavors and complexities. The people that are kind of down on Sauternes feel that it's too sticky or too viscous in the mouth or too sugary for them. The balance that this wine brings to the table. Balance is all I talk about in wine. I think the whole nation has gone too far to the explosive oak monster, fruit bombs wines I talk about. Well, Sauternes as well. A lot of people are very sticky and very over the top. And what Dozy Vitrines does right here, it brings enormous balance. I'm still tasting it. I think I'm yapping because I love the secondary butterscotch flavors that I'm getting right now. Little caramel egg going on. Just an exceptional effort. A wine that for $39 to $50, depending if you bought on futures, is a remarkable value when I look at some of the other states and they've tried to follow DeChem's really intense pricing, where you'll see DeChem rolling in at 500 bones a bottle. I can't help to think that this is a staggering value. I have to be honest with you, I'm not sure if I contributed to this late buzz that's going on around the 07 Dozy Vitrine, but I I'm concerned about the pricing. I've seen it. I think it's going to be fair, but I think this is a chateau. I better not say it too loud so they don't hear me. That is clearly on its way to a little bit of a different pricing structure as demand blows. I mean, this is just life. And so I really hope that if you get an opportunity that you seek out some of their efforts. This wine rocks my face off. To me, this is the perfect style of Sauternes for my palate. And remember, who gives a crap what I rated this or this? Who cares? It's your palate that matters. To blindly follow me or anybody else has zero value. So yes, I'm going bonkers and I love this, but I know in the back of my mind, there are a lot of actual regular Sauternes drinkers that might find this a little light for their liking. Just a hair on this one, right? Just a tad. But that's okay for me because that's what I'm looking for. And so you need to embrace your own palate. But if you've not explored the world of Sauternes, which by the way, I know a lot of you have not at this point, you're missing out, and I hope you have the opportunity to find this 99-point effort in my book. Question of the day. What is your favorite all-time Sauternes? Part 1. Part 2. If you've never had one, what the heck are you waiting for? Because you, with a little bit of me, we're changing the wine world, whether they like it or not.